Hey, howdy everybody. Welcome back to our Road to 1 build playthrough of Old School RuneScape. I'm your host, Millennium RPGs. Let's kick off episode 9. Just a quick reminder, last episode we got our account ready to do herb runs, so that's what we'll be spending today's episode explaining and doing. Speaking of last episode, before we kick into this episode, I did some leveling after last episode, so I'm going to throw those up on screen while we do a quick voiceover. So I guess I'll go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity while I've got it. Dislike the video if you don't enjoy it, like it if you do. If you feel up to it, leave a comment, and if you feel qualified, subscribe. FYI, there are no qualifications, so you're probably qualified. Regardless of which of those you chose to do, if any of them, I do appreciate it. I need some assistance in growing the channel, and you're pretty much the only people who can assist me, so thank you very much. Now, let's go ahead and hop into today's episode. And a quick heads up, I've got allergies, so I'm a bit stuffy today. My apologies, but that's probably going to come through the mic. So over the course of the past 6 days, I've accumulated 5.4 mil in cash. That's enough for a bond. So to say that you can afford a bond in 2 weeks just doing your herb runs is definitely doable. Now, of course, obviously the first day or two you're going to be spending getting your levels up high enough to use herbs that are profitable. For example, radar and toadflax. And then getting into limpworts and eventually getting into cactus. But for today's runs, we'll obviously be using toadflax and limpwort. So let's go ahead and hop into what we're going to need to do our runs and what order I'll be doing them in. First up is the skills necklace. I use that to teleport to the fishing guild right beside our dog name. That way I can run to its herb patch. Secondly, we use the ectophile to get to the ectofunctus so we can run over to the Port Phasmatis herb patch. Next we have the Camelot teleports for teleporting next to Catherby to run to its herb patch. There may be something faster, but I'm unaware of it. I would suggest looking into it if this isn't fast enough for you. Then we have the Amulet of Glory for teleporting to Draenor Village and running to the Falador herb patch. If you have the ring to teleport to the Cabbage patch, I would suggest using it, but that requires diaries I do not have taken care of yet. And lastly, we have the Jagex talisman. I'll show you that whenever we get into the equipment. I do want to mention that this bottomless bucket actually doubles the compost that you put into it, so I accidentally gave myself way too much for one day's runs, but hey, now you know. Alright, for our equipment, inside of our amulet slot we got the Jagex talisman. We'll be using this to teleport to the glade to run to that herb patch. We got the full graceful, so we'll be saving run energy, and I recommend you do the Fairy Tales Part 1 for the secateurs. Alright, and I'll catch y'all after we pick up a new glory, and we can get the herb run started. Let's kick this off by first teleporting to the fishing guild using the scaling necklace. I'd recommend learning the shortcuts on your number pad as to not misclick whenever you try to click on the individual names. Anyways, so you're going to start by running over to this mill, down to the rectangular house. You'll see a fence pop up down here. I suggest running down to it. Follow it for just a little bit, and you'll come right over to the herb patch. Here you are. I like to harvest my limpwort roots on the way over to the herbs, so you can lay down your compost and replant them, or replant them at compost. Doesn't matter as long as you get the compost down before the first growth stage. Then move over to the herbs, and I'll catch you whenever we're done harvesting them. Harvest is complete, so I'm going to lay down my compost and then reseed them. And we'll go over to the gnome, or leprechaun, and drop the limpworts on him and drop the herbs on him. That way he'll note everything and we can move on with the next patch. Speaking of the second patch, we'll be using the ectophile to teleport over to the ectofunctus. We'll let it automatically refill the file. We'll head west to the herb patch. I suggest just taking a few steps outside of the ectofunctus. Start heading west, find the gate, and run alongside the fence. And from here, just head west. Just follow the fence the whole way, and it'll lead you straight to the herb patch. If your herbs die like this one did, don't sweat it. It all averages out. Just remove it, recompost it, reseed it, and you'll harvest it next time. After you've reseeded it, you head over to the limpwort. You harvest this, you compost it, you reseed it, then you drop everything that you've accumulated back off to the leprechaun so he'll note it. Then you head off to point 3. Now the third teleport we'll be using is the Camelot teleport. This will take us just beside Catherby. This time we'll be heading east. We're going to head to the stone outcrop over here, just north of it. Then we'll travel down southeast to the trifecta of stones. Then from here we'll head southeast to what you can tell is the edge of the herb patch, or the farming patch. Head over to the limpwort, harvest it, recompost it, seed it. Same business as always. I'll catch you after we've harvested everything, and we'll move on to the next location. The next teleport that we'll be using is the Glories teleport to Draenor Village. If you have the Hard and Elite diaries from Lumbridge, you can use its ring to teleport infinitely to the Cabbage Patch, but we'll be running through it the long way. We'll just be heading to the west. I head up right to the east of the Pigpen, then click over to the other side of the stone fence. It'll automatically navigate my character over there. Then I click on the other side of the wooden fence. It'll automatically navigate my character over there. And before I get over there, I just head north. I didn't click fast enough, so I actually ran too far to the east. Anyways, once you're up here, you do the same thing as you always do. I'll catch you when we're done with it, and we'll head over to the last location. Now for the last location, we'll use our Jagex talisman to teleport to Jagex Glade. And we just run right next to us. You can see the farming location on the mini-map. So you'll head right over here, harvest the same stuff, and you'll be done with the run. I'll catch you whenever we've harvested everything and count everything up. And here we are at the end of the run. We actually ended up with a pretty average harvest. Despite the dead herb patch along the way, you do end up averaging everything out. Even if it's over the course of multiple runs, it will average itself out. I wouldn't get too caught up in a dead herb patch here and there. Sometimes you'll even have 2 or 3 dead herb patches. It'll all balance out. But yeah, you should be able to pull these herb runs off in about 5 to 6 minutes once you get used to the run. And it's just rinse and repeat every hour and 20 minutes. I'll go ahead and do 7 more of these runs so you can see how much you can make on average in a day. So while I'm time-lapsing this, I'd like to go ahead and cover, for anybody who hasn't seen the previous episodes, some of the basic requirements I like to get taken care of before starting my herb runs. Though technically I don't believe you need any prerequisites to get directly into farming the moment that you start membership. But there's a few prereqs I like to get out of the way before it's really worth doing in my own opinion. Bare minimum, bar none, the graceful outfit. It's just so handy over a long duration of time. And by that, I don't mean a 3-hour session of just doing herb runs constantly. I mean every hour and a half that you do an herb run over the next 12 months ends up accumulating a lot of run time. And yes, while you can save a lot of time just by learning the route and through practice, you will still need to save run time because as you level up, you'll unlock another herb patch, and as you do more quests, you'll unlock a few more herb patches. So in the end, saving run energy with the graceful outfit, totally worth it. Now, in my own opinion, the second most important part of the ensemble, definitely the magic secateurs. While on the surface these things may not seem all that important, when you're saving up for a bond, and you are coming up 500k short, and you lose your membership, that money that you could have made off the secateurs will be pretty important. And being as these things operate at every herb patch you'll ever visit, all you're doing in the long term is shorting yourself some cash. And this brings us to what in my opinion is the third most important item, which would be the bottomless bucket. When you put your ultra compost into it, it just doubles what you put into it. So, long term, saving a lot of money. So definitely recommend picking this one up as soon as you can. And beyond this, all I find important to at least start up your farm runs is the closest teleport you can get a hold of for each of the locations that you'll be traveling to frequently. And for all intents and purposes, since we're talking about starting this up fresh, you're only going to have access to 5 herb patches from the very beginning. So let's just start from the top. This isn't in any particular order as to which one is more important for teleportation, just rather each location as I've got them in my inventory, and as it turns out around my neck with the Jagex talisman. If you're like me and you haven't done at least your mediums and your Ardogne diaries, then I would recommend just picking yourself up a skills necklace. But as soon as you can, get those diaries taken care of because you can use the cloak to teleport directly to the herb patch and save yourself a little bit of running. Next up is Port Phasmatis. Honestly, you can use a charter ship, be terribly inefficient, a lot of running involved. You could use, honestly, just do the quest to get the ectophile, teleport directly to the ectofunctus. You're golden. Just do it. It's infinite teleports. There's no reason not to do it. And the same thing kind of applies for the teletab for Camelot. You don't have a whole lot of alternatives. If you find one, test it. I don't think there is one, but you can look into it. So from this run forward, we'll be integrating cactus strips into the run. I've bought way too many seeds. You only need a few since you won't be harvesting the cactus, just the spines off the cactus, so you'll never have to replant it. So we'll be using the dueling ring at the end of the run to get to Alcaharad. I'll catch you there. Well, that was rude. Totally interrupted myself. As I was saying, with the teleports. Next up, I have the Amulet of Glory. I personally recommend as soon as you can, take care of at least your hards. And I know it's a huge ask. Trust me, I've done it before with my main account.
huge ask, but take care of your hards in the Lumbridge diaries. You'll get access to a ring that'll teleport you directly to the cabbage patch. You'll save a lot of runtime, but it's also a huge ask, so take it as you will. Until then, just use the Amulet of Glory, teleport to Draenor Village, run over to the Falador Herb Patch. You're golden there. And then the last for your 5 basic patches would be the Xerix Talisman, or the Xerix Glade patch. There isn't really an alternative to getting the Xerix Talisman. And there's a few steps involved to getting to the point where you can get the Talisman reliably. It's just something you're going to have to do if you want access to that herb patch. You have access to 5, but if you can't get that Talisman, you really should only be doing 4. The time investment for the other one, I wouldn't recommend involving yourself with it. That is, of course, if you're not getting the Talisman. I would definitely recommend get the Talisman. And after this point, you're pretty much where I was when I first started doing my farm runs. That bare minimum, definitely hop onto it as soon as you can. At the end of our old herb run, now we're just going to teleport to Alcaharid Duel Arena using the Ring of Dueling. And we'll just head south from the fence gate. The gated fence? Either way, we'll just head south. You'll find the cactus patch right down here. You'll have to rake it out this time. You'll never have to rake it out again, assuming you don't harvest the cactus. Don't dig up the cactus. Just pick the spines, leave it. The spines will regrow and you can harvest it each time that you want to harvest your herbs. Simple as that. Now it'll take about 5 or 6 herb runs for this thing to actually grow into its full size to where you can actually harvest its spines, but just stop by every once in a while, make sure it's not diseased. That way you can cure it. And from this point forward, we'll be doing cactus runs with our herb runs. So I'll catch y'all whenever we're done collecting everything for the day. Now, as you're progressing your account, if you want to unlock future herb patches, there's still, I believe there's 4 more that you can unlock. You will soon unlock your farming guild herb patch, which I believe only requires level 65 to have access to it. Yes, you unlock your farming guild access earlier than that, but you don't actually have access to the patch yet. Beyond this, you'll be unlocking the disease-free herb patch above the troll stronghold, which I recommend you do the quest for that as soon as possible. It's a pretty big ask as well, but we're talking the future of your account. Eventually you'll get to that point. I recommend taking care of it. The disease-free patch means you can plant something like a Ranar seed there and have no chance of loss, and it's all profit. Totally go for it. Even further into your account, you'll have access to the Weiss disease-free herb patch. Now this one will have an additional requirement once you get there. Honestly, by the time that you're going into that quest, you probably already know what's involved, but you build a campfire and it creates the disease-free attribute. This is another really solid one that I recommend getting into as soon as you can. Disease-free is always the best patch. In addition to completing the Troll's Romance, you'll have access to Basalt, which is an instantaneous teleportation to both of the disease-free herb patches, so another plus to doing that quest. And then way at the very end of farming, you have the Harmony patch. Not getting into that, I personally don't have any experience with it. A quick digression here, but being as we're toward the end of our bond, we're going to go ahead and rest a really low buy for a bond in here. If it comes through, great. If not, we'll buy it once our bond runs out, but I prefer to have one in the bank when I need it as opposed to trying to buy it in a rush, because you could usually get pretty well burnt for that. You don't want to overspend on a bond. It's very easy to overspend on a bond, so I'll just leave it in here, and if it comes through, it comes through. Alright, back to the herb runs. It's time to be honest. Alright, after a while, these herb runs, they're going to get really tedious. You should take a break. This is not something you should be doing as the only method to make money. It's just for getting your bond started up. If you enjoy them like I did, I mean, have the goal to get the extra 3 herb patches unlocked. But be my guest. I haven't even tried to go for the Harmony one. It's way outside of my league right now. But if you're going for those, use them more as something to motivate you to continue doing your herb runs, not as something you have to get to. I personally had a goal set to try to improve my own run times. I had a goal to, and this is completely mental, but I was racing people without them even realize I was racing them. I was just making something competitive out of something that's not competitive at all. And honestly, it's a skewed race. Like, you've got people with dead herbs, you've got people that don't harvest as many or harvest way more than you. You have a quicker run than they do. There's inconsistencies, but I still found enjoyment out of it. So if you enjoy that, I recommend giving it a try. Ultimately, honestly, just find something that you can enjoy about this process, because again, you will eventually burn out on it. And I found my own joy. Hopefully you do too. And I'm not just talking about my rectal region here. Like, I personally went from roughly level 25 in farming to a level 84 plus on my main account just doing herb runs. Ironically, I personally don't enjoy doing tree runs because I'm not doing it just for the experience. I'm doing it for the profits that I can make off of it. But I don't know. Herb runs became a whole different beast for me. I mean, by the time that I was in my 70s, I was already making charts of what herbs were most profitable at what hour of what day of what week. It was completely unnecessary. Honestly, it's min-maxing. It was fun to do on my main. Not what I'm going for here. I'll probably be dropping herb runs as soon as I have bonds secured, as soon as I find a more interesting moneymaker, but you can have fun with it. You have to try, but you'll have fun with it if you try. But no worries. If you didn't burn out doing your agility to get your graceful outfit, you're probably not going to burn out so quickly on this. It's just another one of the grinds that are involved in RuneScape. At the end of the day, you'll pull through it. If you don't like it, don't do it. If you have a better moneymaker, or you have something, even if it's not better, if you enjoy it more, go do something else. This is my personal recommendation. This is something I personally enjoy. It may not be the same for you. But enough of the inspirational nonsense, enough of the unethical gloating about my main account. Let's move on to, let's say, talk about next episode. I do already have it recorded. I already had a moneymaker I was planning on moving forward with. Moved forward with it. Went great. Looking forward to putting that episode out. Hopefully the same day as this episode goes out. I want to help make up for the fact that last week's episode just wasn't uploaded. So my apologies, trying to catch up. But much like this episode's moneymaker being something I've done on my main account for a while, I do have another moneymaker that I've done on my account for a while on my main. It's something not necessarily as reliable, but much more profit per hour when it does pay out. And I've been looking at the price fluctuations of the items that I intend to be selling to the Grand Exchange, and they're a little bit sporadic, but they've also doubled in value since the last time I've done it. So the profits that I should be receiving from it should be even more absurd for what it is. But I don't want to hype it up, and I don't want to give too much away, so I'm going to stop talking about that for now. Apologies, but you'll see it soon. I will say this though, with the low viewership that the channel's getting, and I'm not trying to rag anybody or my own channel, but with the low viewership that it's getting, anybody who does see this kind of have an advantage. You may end up burning out the economy on this particular thing, but I'm personally only going to be doing it for maybe a week or so because I want to move forward with some other moneymakers I don't really have any experience with. So if you hop on this soon enough, good luck to you and good on you. Okay, at this point, we've got 6 runs down, 2 to go. That's about 4 more minutes of voiceover time. If it starts to sound even more rambly than usual, that would be why. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm just trying to prolong the video for whatever reason, algorithm, viewership, I don't know. No, I just have already included 6 of the 8 runs. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to cut out the last 2 runs, just continuity-wise. Hope you understand. If not, my apologies. I'm really not trying to come across as scumbaggy. You know what? Let's touch on account progression real quickly. It was never my intention when I first started this series to deliberately focus on account progression. But with the way that the series has been progressing and the money makers that I've chosen to follow through with, the account progression is still happening. And if it continues to progress the way it has been, I could potentially see this character becoming a main character. Well, let's just call it a co-star, because I'll always be loyal to my true main. He was always my first. But in all seriousness, this account is coming along really well. I was really expecting things that didn't have a whole lot of requirements to be my main moneymakers. I was expecting to do some flipping, but I will still be getting to that in the background, and as things progress, I just kind of need a capital to even start doing that, so I'm not super focused on getting to that point, just building up the bank in the meantime. Although I had also considered doing late game PVM with, say, demonic gorillas or Vorkath and so on and so forth. So I don't know what I was thinking as far as not having to worry about requirements, because you can't really get into a lot of things without doing some kind of questing, doing some kind of combat training, doing some kind of leveling your passive skills. Not passive skills, whatever, you know what I mean, skilling skills. But the PVM business, that'll be a long time coming. Like, I have not got a whole lot of experience with it, even on my main account. It's something I want to get into, but there's still portions of it that are just mind-boggling to me. So for a quick example, Cerebrew potions, and Super Restore potions for that matter. Now, I've personally always been somebody who min-maxes how much money I'm spending, so I don't like to waste potions. So whenever it comes to those potions, the combination of needing 3 sips of a Cerebrew to heal you to max health, or relatively close to your full hit points, and then needing to drink a Super Restore potion, well, you don't always need 3 sips of Cerebrews to get to your full hit points, so it just seems wasteful to drink a Super Restore potion. I don't know. Anyways, let's wrap up the episode. We'll deal with that at a later time. And here's the results of our 8 herb runs in a single day. That's 382 toad flax and 225 limpwort, and only 3 cactus vines. Admittedly, we had a really bad cactus run, and we only got 1 in by the end of today, but it'll pay off. It pays off. But as for the herbs and the limpwort, it's pretty average. And you could go more than 8 herb runs a day. You could also go less. I just wanted a pretty achievable amount. You don't want to base your entire day, if you've got a job and you've got responsibilities outside of playing a game, you don't want to do more than 8 runs a day. You got to screw up your entire sleep schedule for that. So 8 runs is relatively manageable. And for 1 mil for 8 runs, you could do 4 runs a day and still be able to afford a new bond. So it may not be top tier for maximum profit, but it is top tier for consistency. And this pretty much wraps up my explanation of how I go about doing farm runs. I do want to avoid calling it a tutorial or a guide, because I could have gone more into depth of explaining different things. For example, the other shortcuts like the Falador teleport, or rather the Lumbridge Diaries ring for teleporting to the Falador herb patch, or the Ardogne cloak and it's teleporting to the Ardogne herb patch. I could have gone into more detail as far as how to cure diseases in plants and what to do with the rake and the seed dipper and the spade and all this kind of stuff. But I would recommend that if this is your first time getting into herb runs or farming in general, you look into what each of these tools do, because it's important to know. I just wanted to explain how I would go about doing it. This is just a basic, here's how you can get some bonds. Quick and easy. Maybe not quick, but easily. If it wasn't too much to bear through, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, as I said at the beginning of the episode. Now, I guess I didn't say share. Yeah, share. Anyways, leave a comment if you want to. That's pretty much all I got to say for the day. Thank you for watching. Y'all be safe out there. Toodles.